Hello filmmakers, Ash here and welcome to Film It Yourself. Recently, I got a lot of requests from you about how I edit my videos, my workflow, and what editing software I use. So I figured I would do a whole video laying out my Premiere Pro editing workflow. So let's get into it. So first off here, I have a completely blank Premiere Pro project. I do use Premiere Pro and I love it. I used to use Final Cut 7 back in the day, but when X came out, pretty much everyone in the film industry switched over to Premiere Pro, though I have heard that Final Cut 10 is like better now, but I still use Premiere Pro and really like it. So I have a blank project here, but the most important thing to do before you start editing in Premiere Pro is actually to do file organization on your hard drive. So let's take a look at that. So here I have a footage folder. This is my master folder for all of my Film It Yourself stuff. And then I have a footage folder, and in the footage folder, I have a folder for each batch of footage that I shoot because I shoot a lot of my videos in batches. It just makes it easier instead of having to shoot one every single week. And then, so batch 7, this is the batch that I just shot recently. And in here, I have a folder for each card that I shot on, so each camera card. And then I have an audio folder, and the audio folder has the audio for the different takes. So what's really important is you want to mirror your file structure organization in your files. Or at least this is what I do. I like to mirror my file structure organization in my Premiere Pro project. I like to mirror it so that it's just like it was in the Finder, because that way it's just easier to find stuff. You say, if something gets offline, which means, if you didn't already know, offline means it's disconnected, so the software can't find the file that used to be there. If something gets offline because you moved it maybe or changed a folder name, it's really easy to figure out where it is because everything's named the same, which is really great. So let's start in Premiere, and we're gonna make a new bin, which bins are pretty much just like folders in Premiere, and I'm gonna call it footage. And then what's really cool about Premiere is you can just drag your footage over. Now, before I do that, you will notice here a ProRes file folder at the bottom of each card. And that's because my camera natively shoots H.264, which is a codec that the camera just sort of wraps your footage in. And Premiere Pro doesn't play super nice with H.264. It kind of is laggy and buggy and playback isn't great. So what I always do and what I recommend is I will transcode my footage into a Apple ProRes proxy file. And what transcode means is it just means that you're changing the format of the file so that Premiere can play with it better. So I've done that for all of my footage. So you can see here card 1, card 2 as well. So I'm gonna make sub bins called card 1. And we will bring all of this footage in. All right, and then I would do the same thing for each card. I'm not gonna make you sit here and watch me do it, but I would have a folder for each of the cards. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm also going to make a new bin called audio. And I'm going to bring in my audio files. Now, I shot my audio for this project with the Apache mic, the plug and play mic, which I did a review for, and you can see it right here, or here, I think there, yeah. So it has subfolders for the different movies that I did and then the different takes. Normally my audio files honestly would just be loose in the folder. If I had multiple days of shooting, I might actually have an audio 1 folder and then an audio 2 folder, but I just had one day, so I just have one folder here, and we'll bring these in to our audio. One thing I'll say that I really like about the Apache Clip Mic Digital 2 is that you can name your files as you're recording, which is really great because that's a step that I do as I go through and I name the files. So it's nice that it's already done for me. and I will speed this up so you don't have to watch me do it. Okay, so I have all of my footage in here in my footage folder of my audio and my cards. You can see them all here. And one thing I didn't talk about because I already had the project file already open, but one thing I like to do is I like to have a separate hard drive for my cache files, and this can really just help speed up Premiere if you have an older machine that you're working on. Sometimes those cache files, if they're on your local drive, can really slow it down. So let me show you where you select that. If you go up here to File, and then you click on Project Settings, Scratch Disks, and this window it will pop up when you first start your project file. So you can set all this there as well, but you can see right now everything is going to same as project. And for the most part, you want that because you want to keep all of your stuff together in one place. You don't want it spread out, because if you ever need to reopen that project, you want to make sure that it's all there, or if you want to back it up, it'll be really hard if it's not all there. But cache files you don't actually need, because every time you open the project, Premiere will create new cache files if it can't find them. So, and cache files, by the way, just in case you didn't know, cache files are basically files your computer creates once it's reading. So in order to read and display the footage, your computer creates cache files. My brain is working really hard. And those cache files just let you preview the footage and play it back smoothly, basically, I think. Please let me know if I'm wrong in the comments below, but that's my understanding of cache files. So what I want to do is, it's really the preview files, that's what Premiere calls it. So I'm going to change that to custom, and I'm going to browse, and I have another hard drive right here, a Lacy cache file. You can see it already has a bunch of files here from other projects. I'm just going to choose that one for my video previews, and then also for my audio previews. Let me go down, Lacy, yep. Choose, perfect. And then I'm gonna click OK. So again, that window will pop up when you first open Premiere and start a new project. So you can do those settings there, or you can do it later after you open up the project. So again, that window will pop up when you first create a Premiere Pro project file, but if you missed it for any reason, or you want to change your settings, you can still do so through that file menu system. So next, let's talk about organization beyond just our footage. So I like to have a footage bin, as you see here, and then I also like to have a sequences bin. And this is the bin where I'm going to make all of my sequences, and I'm going to store them all in there. I also like to have another bin in there called archive. And that's just because I'm kind of an obsessive freak about any time I make like a change in, not just any change, but like if I'm gonna make a big editing change, I duplicate my sequence and call it V2 or V3 or so on and so forth. So that way, if I ever make a change and then I go, I don't really like that, I can always go back and I can check previous versions and then grab that old version. So this is really great if you're editing a film and you want to make like crazy changes, like maybe you want to reorder scenes and you want to go crazy and just completely reorder stuff. This would help protect you, so you can always go back. So if you're the editor and you're not the director, and you decided to get really creative and the director comes in and says, I don't like that, go back to the previous version, you won't be like, oh no, I didn't save it. You'll still have a version. So I highly recommend doing this. And then I also like to have a bin for nests. And you might not always use nests. And if you don't know what nests are just basically sub-sequences within your sequence. So if you have like a group of clips and you want to just make them into one clip that you can drag around without having to drag a bunch of stuff around, that's what a nest would be. But they generate their own sequence files in your project. And so they kind of drive me crazy because they just go everywhere. So I like to keep them nice and organized. As you can tell, I'm an organizational freak when it comes to footage, not in my real life. Nothing else is organized in my house. Anyway, and then the final bins that I would put in would be a music bin, and then a sound effects bin. And I have my own music and sound effects libraries that I like to bring in with every project. And again, we want to mirror a little bit how it's, the structure, the folder structure of my hard drive. So in my hard drive, I have my master folder for all of my projects. And then I have my footage folder, so that you saw that with all my footage. And then I have an other assets folder. And this is where I like to keep all of my sound effects and music and any other assets that I need. So you can see here, I have a music one, and then I can just Command A, select all of that and drag it into the music folder. And then it's gonna import my whole music library that I can then search through in Premiere and add music, and it's all there for me, which is great. And sometimes you get this, there's a PDF file in there, so that one doesn't work in Premiere. Premiere doesn't support PDF, but that's fine. I don't need the PDF, I just need all the music stuff. So I would do the same thing for sound effects and so on and so forth. But the next step is probably one of the most important steps. So we have finished our organization. And sometimes, as I go, I add more folders, like maybe I have audio imports because I exported audio for it to be processed. So I might have a from audio folder and whatnot. So there is more folders, but this is kind of like the bare bones. I also have a graphics folder where I put all the graphics that I make in Photoshop, but this is like the bare bones you would need for a project. So let's move on to the actual hard part of syncing your footage, because unless you have a microphone that's going directly into your camera, you have to sync your footage if you're recording your audio separately, which I do with a Zoom H4 recorder. So let me show you how to do that in Premiere. So we have all of our footage here, and what you might want to do is toggle this down, and you can just check your audio settings. So we can see here, these are all mono files, which is great. With the Zoom recorder, it sometimes automatically records stereo, so I just go in and I will change all of the settings of the audio to make them mono. And so I do that by right-clicking and go to Modify Audio Channels. And here you can select mono. If it was stereo, you would see I'd have the option of selecting the right or left channel. This is just mono. So if it is a stereo track and one of the stereo tracks is just dead, you would want to double check which one it is. And you can do that by just double clicking it. And if there were two tracks, you would see which one didn't have any audio. And so you'd be able to know if it's the right or the left channel. Okay, so we know that our audio is looking good. It's the mono setting, which is what we want. So now I'm going to toggle all of my card folders open, and I'm just gonna hit the tilde key to maximize this screen. I will toggle all of the cards open. So we have all the footage, and then I just go through, select it all, and then you'll wanna deselect the actual folders, like so. Okay, great. And now you're gonna right click, and you're gonna go down to Create Multi-Camera Source. And then in this window, I usually leave it set to saying multicam, so it's just gonna put multicam at the end of the name of the sequences it's gonna make. So to sync your footage, it's going to make sequences and place the audio below the video in sync, hopefully. So you want to do audio for that, and it's going to use the audio of both your audio and the audio in the clip to sync them. You can also use in points or out points if you want to go through and set in and out points for each clip and audio, but that's a lot of work, and I find the audio feature works really well. You can also do time code if you shot in timecode and you had the audio in sync with timecode too, but I'm not that fancy. So audio works just fine, track one is good, and then honestly I leave all of this stuff as is and I just click OK. And you can see here it's going to go through all of the audio and all the video, and it's processing it to listen to it and try to sync it up. And this process can take a while, so you got to be a little patient. Also, the process of encoding your footage can take a while too. So all these steps take a lot of time before you even start video editing, which can be frustrating, but they're worth it. It's totally worth it to do all this organization and all these steps ahead of time, because you never know if especially if you're editing a film, if you go back and you need to find something and it's not labeled or saved in the right spot, it's gonna be a major pain. So trust me, it's totally worth doing all these steps. So this looks like it's gonna take a while. So I'm going to, through the magic of editing, speed this up for you. Okay, so it has finished syncing the clips that it could sync, and you might see this window pop up that it couldn't synchronize one or more clips. That's okay, we're gonna click okay. I basically shot some B-roll clips that didn't have any audio, so that's why that popped up. But you might also have issues syncing some clips sometimes, especially if there's a lot of background noise or the audio that you recorded is very low, like recorded low, it might have issues then. And then you might want to go in and set endpoints and choose the Multicam Sync via endpoints method. But let's take a look and see how well it did. So we see here we have our first multicam sequence here, and I just hold down Command and double click, and it opens it up, and you can see it did it. We have a synced sequence. And it did great. It's perfect. So when I go through and I sync my sequences, the next step I do is I'm going to make some changes to my sequences, and I'm also going to name them. So the first thing that I do is I'm actually going to change the setting of the sequence. So I shoot my videos in 4K, but I deliver them in 1080 to YouTube. And I do this so that I can punch in on the footage and look like I have two cameras. I can essentially get a wide shot and a close-up at the same time. And if I'm doing a product review, I can also get a close-up of whatever I'm displaying or doing the product review on. So I'll show you how I do that. So first, I'm going to right-click on the sequence and go to sequence settings. And I'm gonna make sure that my frame rate is correct. I did shoot in 23.97, so this is right. And here I'm going to set my frame size. You can see that it's set to 4K. This is 4K dimensions, and it's still 16:9, but we want to do 1920 by 1080. And then I want to make sure that my pixel aspect ratio is square. If you don't have it set to square, what'll happen is your image will like stretch or distort or be weird. So I keep it at square. And you might change this if you have like an anamorphic lens or something, but I don't. So I do square. And then the display format, 23:97 again. And then I didn't shoot progressive, so no fields. And honestly, you probably aren't shooting progressive. This is a whole technical thing that cameras used to do progressive, and it would scan down or up, and don't worry about it. Your DSLR or mirrorless camera probably doesn't shoot that, so don't worry about it. We're gonna keep it to no fields. And then at the bottom, because I converted my footage to QuickTime ProRes Proxy, I keep that setting. And again, it's 1920 by 1080. This all looks good, and I'm gonna click OK. And you're gonna be like, oh my God, now the footage looks really dumb, and it's a weird boob shot. Don't worry, we're gonna fix it. So what you're gonna wanna do is select your footage, and we're gonna go to the effects controls, and you're just gonna scale it down to 50% to get the whole image again. And that's because 1080 is about 50% of 4K. So fun fact for you there, 50% of 4K is 10K. Wait, not 10K, 1080. 10K would be bigger. Anyway, so now I have my wide shot here, and then I'm just gonna option drag to make another one. And then I'm going to zoom in to maybe 100, maybe 80, we'll see. And I'm just gonna pull the footage down, and now I have a close-up. So now I have a close-up and a wide shot. And then let's say I had something on the table that I also wanted to display. I would option drag here, and I can just drag down and make sure we don't get any black, because then you're out of frame. And then you could frame these cameras up. Maybe I'm talking about the cameras and you want a shot of the cameras. So that is how you set up the different camera angles in one shot like that, and it's really great, especially for YouTube. So the next step is I'm gonna go to the beginning of my clip and I'm going to listen to it to hear what this take is, because I verbally slate what every clip is that I shoot, so that way I know what to name it. So I'm going to just move my cursor to where the audio starts recording and rolling on the microphone. Lock it and put it in my pocket. Okay. This is 0703 take 1 marker. All right, 0703 take 1. So I would say 07_03 take 1. And now I've named my multicam clip. So I would then go through and I would do that for all of these clips, double checking to make sure. Sometimes if Premiere freaks out, you might see multiple different clips and they might be all over the place and it's wrong and not synced up. So I just go through and I double check everything, make sure it all looks good. It's all looking good. And here we go. So here is a perfect example of what I was talking about. You can see here it's confused two clips. There's only one audio track, which tells me right away, like, I think this clip doesn't actually belong there. And we can see, oh, it does actually. It's actually a second camera because this is a product review and I shot a second camera so that I could get a close-up of my phone. So this is what it would look like if you had two cameras. So that's my process for the multicams. I go through, I rename them, I resize them, and resize the clips and set them up so that they are the size and angle and punch in and everything that I want. Not angle, I mean, they're all the same angle, except for this one. This has two angles, but you know what I mean. I'm going to push in and make a close-up and have a wide and make sure that they're all perfect exactly how I want it. So the next step is, once you rename all your clips, you want to organize it a little bit better. So you can see here, here's one audio clip. This looks like a false take, so we're not going to worry about that. But if it didn't sync anything, you will see here that it keeps that footage in those folders. And that's why it's so important to have that organization. So you can go through and you can see, all right, look, card 4, it missed a lot, and I would just double check. And okay, cool, this just looks like a B-roll shot. I don't have to worry about it. So the next step is I'm going to close all these folders and I'm going to make a new folder, or bin, as Premiere calls it. I'm gonna call it labeled clips. And then I'm gonna take all of my multicams and we'll just pretend that I went through and labeled all of them. I'm not gonna do it right now because it's super boring. But once they're all labeled, I would put them in here. And then any B-roll clips that I have, like this one here, I would go through and I would also name those because I also verbally slate those, and I would name them to be whatever I wanted. So for B-roll clips, let's just take a listen. Okay, here's a B-roll clip we can listen to. Okay, rolling. This is B-roll 0706_3 part 1. All right. Part 1, take 1. Okay, so B-roll 0706_3 part 1, take 1. So I would just go through and I would name all of those loose clips, give them their name, their proper name, and then once I name them, I would drag them into the labeled clips folder, like so. So once all of my clips are labeled, they're all in here and they're labeled and easy to find and easy to edit. And if you're wondering what sort of bananas naming thing that I have going on here, it's my own weird thing that I developed. I know it's weird, just ignore it. Name your clips whatever makes sense to you. This is just how I do it. Anyway, so the next step would then be editing. So I would then make a sequence by going down here, and I would make sure that I have it in my sequence folder. So in my sequence folder, new sequence, and we would just call this video V1, whatever the name of the video is. And then I'm gonna right click on my sequence and make sure that my settings are all right. So this has selected RE camera. I don't know why Premiere keeps thinking my camera's an RE, it's not. I'm gonna go with custom. And then everything else looks right, oh, except for preview file format. So we wanna change that back to QuickTime and ProRes 422 proxy. And the preview file format is what it's going to generate those preview cache files as. And the closer that matches the actual codec that your footage is in, the better playback's gonna be when you're editing in Premiere. So you wanna match that if possible. And I'm going to click OK. All right. Now the other much faster way you can do the thing that I just did is you can just make a sequence. We'll say sequence video 2 v1. And then you can just drag a clip into your sequence. And it's gonna ask you if you wanna match the sequence settings to the clip settings. And you can say, yes, change sequence settings. And then it should format your sequence to your clip, which is really great. But I do suggest double checking that just to make sure that the sequence settings are absolutely correct. So if we go down here, let's just right click, sequence settings. And yeah, so the preview file format isn't correct. So this is, you know, if you're in a hurry, maybe that's the good way to do it, but I prefer just manually doing it to make sure that it's right. So now that I have a sequence here in Premiere, I'm gonna open that one up and I'm going to bring in my multicam and just bring it in like so. And then you can make an edit and then you can right click and go down to multicam and switch angles. So you just do another edit and go down to multicam. So now you can just go through and edit and it just automatically changes it and your sequence settings are all set to match the multicam sequence that you made so that it all works great. Okay, so that is my complete Premiere Pro editing workflow. And thank you so much for watching. I'm going to do another video as far as like actually editing in Premiere. And when I do that, hopefully it will pop up here. I'm figuring this video is pretty long already. So if you have any other questions about video editing or filmmaking, leave them in the comments below and I'll be sure to make a video answering your question. So thanks for watching and go film it yourself. Oh, and also subscribe and hit the like button and all that other YouTube-y junk.